Coach. We haven't talked to you since Cream and Crimson series wrapped up. So let's start off with just your final impressions of fall ball.
Well, I think in a good way, pitching was probably ahead of the hitting this fall, which is something that we lacked last year. So I know our hitting's going to be there. But I was pleased. I was generally, the overall impression was pleased with fall ball. We had a lot of young arms throwing and not a lot of our veteran guys throwing, and it was still pretty sharp. So that's a good sign. And it's tough. You know, we're no secret left-handed dominant offensive team, and a lot of the pitching we had was left-handed. So it kept that hitting in check. But I know our guys are going to hit in the spring, and if we get the same or better pitching performance, definitely an improvement from last year.
You're into sort of the off-season part. Obviously won't begin official practices until February. What do the guys go through during this time of the year?
The main focus for us is really changing the bodies. You know, from a lot of these guys coming out of high school, they've lifted weights, but not quite at the intensity at which we're going to do. Our returning guys have certainly an idea of what's going on, but really focusing in on changing the bodies, getting the guys strong enough to play at this level in the continued season, a long season, and getting them to understand that. And then at the same time, we made a decision this fall, different from last year, where we decided to play a lot of inter-squad games and thus not spending a lot of time on the smaller developmental things that we knew we would do in the off-season. So in conjunction with our strength and conditioning program, we're going to spend a lot of time on just breaking things down and really a lot of one-on-one type stuff with the guys.
College baseball's in the off-season period for pretty much every program, but up at the big leagues, they're really getting going. World Series started last night. What was it like watching that for you? I
think it's, and this is, probably shouldn't say this as a baseball coach. I don't watch a lot of professional baseball just because we're always off watching other baseball, but it's good this time of year to be able to settle in and watch some of the playoff stuff, which I enjoy. But I think it's going to be a great series. What's funny is, as I'm watching it, not realizing or knowing a lot of the players on both teams. I mean, there's some, I should say, I know the names, but not having a chance to see them a lot during the regular season. So I like it that the World Series is different. You've got Texas in there, and San Francisco had been in there for a little bit, but it's just a lot of different names, and I love them, not the Rodriguez and the Jeter and those guys. We get to see some different players that maybe you don't get to see on a regular basis. But the way the pitching matches up, I think it's going to be a fun series for the traditional baseball fans to watch.
You did get to see a familiar name in that series, Buster Posey, a guy who the Hoosiers went up against a couple of years ago, and it was interesting talking to Josh Fagley the other day about what it was like for him to watch Buster Posey playing in the World Series.
Buster Posey looks about 10 years old, too, and I think the year we played him was his first year transitioning behind the plate, and I remember one of the games in the championship series, they had talked about his transition to catching, and most people don't know that or realize that he was a top-notch shortstop as a freshman for them. But he's what a phenomenal, a great hitter. But yeah, it just strikes me because he looks like he's 18 years old, but yet he's just so mature on the baseball field.
One last thing we always have to ask, update on flag football. I think there was a pretty good contest earlier this week.
Well, yeah, it was spirited. We battled a team, I can't remember, one of the fraternities on campus. It was a little heated, but team baseball came out on top, and we lived to fight another day. We played another game after that and kind of did a sound beating of that team. But, interesting matchup this week because we play the opposition next week, actually, that one of our baseball players actually plays for that team. TC Nip is going to be the opposition next week. So we'll love TC during the workouts and during the baseball stuff, but he will absolutely be the enemy next week when we step foot on the gridiron.